Hi, I'm a Possum and I find garbage. Today's garbage is Super Mario Bros., the live-action movie that came out on May 28th, 1993, just months before the disastrous Operation Gothic Serpent. These events are probably unrelated. You know what Super Mario is, right? The series of video games where you play as an offensive stereotype who does shrooms, commits animal abuse, and rescues disempowered female characters. Well, they made a movie based on it in 1993, the first movie ever based on a video game. And by based on, I mean they took the name and made something so far removed from the source material that you would never guess it had anything to do with it if it weren't for the names of the characters. It's a bizarre imbroglio of a movie. Imagine if Blade Runner was a comedy, but combined with an early 90s pop cultural obsession with dinosaurs. I don't want to get too much into explaining the history of this movie and how it turned out the way it did, because it's just too much to cover, but basically, the movie rights are passed from studio to studio, with the screenplay passing between 9 different writers and 7 drafts, with no one agreeing on what the movie should be, even while it was being filmed. The first draft was an existential road trip drama written by the guy who wrote Rain Man. It was so similar that it was referred to internally as Drain Man. I'm not joking. It's lost media now, but you can still find the pitch sheets and notes online. So what we ended up with is a mishmash of the visions of a bunch of different people who I'm guessing all hated each other. You know, like democracy. There's actually an entire website, smbmovie.com, which is basically an encyclopedia of background information about this movie. They have production photos, unused scripts, concept art, deleted scenes, interviews with cast and crew, and there's even a section on merchandise which I didn't even know existed. There's so much background and behind the scenes stuff to talk about that you can make a whole documentary if you wanted to, but who gives a shit? The movie starts with the company logos accompanied by the classic Super Mario NES music. Makes me want to smash my head into a block. Then we fade into a pixelated video of a forest, and Bob Hoskins starts narrating about how cartoon dinosaurs resembling not so much classic NES or Super NES game sprites, but more like characters from a 90s PC point-and-click adventure game ruled the earth.
No, it just don't get no better than this.
Apparently, 65 million years ago, Brooklyn looked like stock footage of Costa Rica. Also, apparently, the meteor that killed the dinosaurs didn't crash off the coast of Mexico, but in what is now Brooklyn.
What if the dinosaurs weren't all destroyed? What if the impact of that meteorite created a parallel dimension where the dinosaurs continue to thrive and evolve into intelligent, vicious, aggressive beings?
What if your mother swallowed your dad's load? Then we cut to Brooklyn 20 years ago, when some lady runs around in a thunderstorm because that's dramatic. She runs up to a church and places an egg-shaped metal pot on the stoop, and we get a close-up of this crystal thing. She knocks on the door and runs away.
I guess the Uber Eats driver didn't want a tip.
The lady runs through traffic and goes down a manhole. Oh, sorry, I forgot it's 2023. I meant to say, person who works in an occupation that's almost exclusively male, but we should pretend otherwise so we don't offend anyone whole. The nuns open the pod to reveal a giant egg. Then the lady runs to the sewers and bumps into Mac's headroom.
Where's the rock?
Koopa!
Wait, that's Koopa? As in King Koopa? As in Bowser? The giant turtle dragon guy who Mario fights? He doesn't look anything like him. He looks more like his counterpart from the Super Horneo Brothers parody. You know, the one with Ron Jeremy.
That's okay. I like blowjobs, saved on child support.
Talk about a mushroom kingdom. The lady pushes a thing, the ceiling collapses, the lady screams, the egg hatches, there's a baby, and the nun holds up the crystal to let the audience know that's important. We flash forward to the present of 1993, but they don't say what month it is, so I'm not sure if this is before or after the Great Crystal Pepsi flood, but I guess it doesn't matter. The camera passes some plungers on a sword rack, and we see some fat, balding tub of answering a phone call, and then we see some vacant-eyed morons sitting on the couch and watching TV.
Okay, we'll be right there. Luigi.
Oh, I guess that's supposed to be Luigi. I guess this other guy's supposed to be Mario. And that would make these two the Mario Brothers, played by Bob Hoskins and John Leguizamo, neither of whom are Italian. Which would make this the Italian equivalent of blackface, commonly known as grease face. Mario looks like he's old enough to be Luigi's dad, but never mind that, they're brothers. And their plumbing business is failing, So Mario throws Luigi's boots at his crotch and tells him to stop wasting the money on stupid tabloids and to get ready for the next job.
Anything's possible, Mario. You just gotta believe.
Okay, draw a square circle. If anything's possible, then you should be able to do that. Go on, do it. Draw a square circle. Anything's possible. Yeah, sure, anything's possible. Maybe we'll solve cold fusion, faster than light travel, and the female orgasm. Maybe I'll come out of the closet. So Mario and Luigi get in their van and start driving to their client, but Luigi decides to follow his instincts toward the wrong direction, causing them to lose their client to a competitor.
Scapelli. They beat us to it again. Another lost job.
Then we cut to a news reporter explaining that a construction project has been halted while university students dig for dinosaur bones under the Brooklyn Bridge. The contractor, Anthony Scapelli, shows up to tell the students to f*** off, but their leader tells him to f*** off, so Scapelli threatens her, and then she f***s off to find a phone so she can call the university. Then we see two goons eating hot dogs without buns.
They say it's dark.
Don't blow it this time.
They see the paleontology student walking around and identify her as their target because she fits the description Koopa gave them.
Yeah? You sure?
2 arms, 1 head, 2 legs. Koopa's gonna kill us if we blow it again. Let's get her.
Mario and Luigi's van breaks down and Mario tells Luigi to use the payphone to check for messages while he goes into a nearby store for water. The girl walks up, waiting to use the phone, and Luigi immediately starts simping for her.
Hi, it's Daisy. Listen, we're gonna need more security down here.
Wait, that's supposed to be Daisy? As in Princess Daisy? And why her and not Princess Peach, or Princess Toadstool as she would have been called back then? Daisy wasn't even a major character in the franchise. The only game she appeared in by the time this movie was made was Super Mario Land on Game Boy. And she didn't appear in any other games until Mario Tennis on Nintendo 64, 7 years after this movie. The most recent mainline Mario game at the time was Super Mario World, and Peach is mentioned by name, her last name, in the opening cutscene. So why is Daisy the princess in this movie? You know, if I were to make a movie adaptation of Super Mario Bros., I would make the princess named Princess Loosestool. Anyway, Daisy thanks Luigi for letting her use the phone, then Luigi talks like an awkward idiot while Mario stands there holding his product placement. They offer her a ride, and she agrees to get into a van with these two creepy weirdos to get away from the other two creepy weirdos who are watching her from across the street. They drive back to the dig site, we see a black guy, then Luigi asks Daisy out to dinner. Later that night, Mario and Luigi are on a double date at a Italian restaurant with Daisy and whoever the f this is. Daisy explains that they think the meteor that killed the dinosaurs landed in Brooklyn, and that's what they're looking for. She also explains she's been wearing this crystal around her neck ever since she was found by the nuns, so I guess that baby was her. Then Luigi explains he also doesn't know who his parents are and was raised by Mario.
He's been my mother my whole life.
Hey.
Alright, my father. He's been my father, my uncle, my brother, everybody.
Oh, so Mario's basically Luigi's adopted father. In other words, they're not brothers. You know, the Mario games tend to be pretty light on story, so there's a lot about the franchise that's open to interpretation. This is not one of those things. It's literally in the f***ing title, which you kept for this f***ing movie. You f*** up. Mario and What's-Her-Face decide to let Luigi and Daisy walk home by themselves and leave. And those two goons in the car see them getting in the van, and they think Mario's girlfriend is Daisy in disguise, so they follow them. We cut to Luigi apologizing to Daisy for being a weirdo, and we see Mario kiss his girlfriend goodnight. On the hand, of course, because no one wants to see Bob Hoskins make out with anyone. Mario drives away, and then the two goons sneak up and grab his girlfriend. Luigi and Daisy go to the dig site for some reason and walk around in the sewers, I guess because the dig site is in the sewer. Daisy shows Luigi the new dinosaur species they found.
The way the bones fit here, and the opposable thumb, it's almost as if he was a monster trying to be a human being.
That's stupid. Go f*** yourself. As Daisy and Luigi lean in to kiss because this is just such a romantic situation and environment, they're interrupted by two guys running away as water spews out. Luigi notices the Scapelli uniforms, and they realize Scapelli is trying to sabotage the dig by flooding it. So I guess Daisy and Luigi run all the way back to the apartment to tell Mario, because the movie forgot that phones exist, so Mario grabs his tool belt.
Strap your belt on, kid. We're going in.
They rush back to the sewer, and Mario and Luigi get to work fixing the pipe. But then the two goons show up.
If we get it wrong one more time, he's gonna kill us.
He's not gonna kill us. He's not that nice.
Just as they finish fixing the pipe, the goons walk in and knock Mario and Luigi out, and then they snatch Daisy. Mario and Luigi wake up and follow the sound of Daisy screaming to a ledge, and realize the screams are coming from behind a weird rippling wall. Daisy pops out just long enough Luigi to grab the crystal before she gets pulled back in. Then Luigi decides to jump into the wall and go after her. Then Mario reluctantly follows. Why'd he flip all the way over? Is he top heavy or something? So Mario falls through the space between dimensions. It reminds me of that other John Leguizamo movie.
Get away from me, you punch-packing midget!
I guess now would be a good time to talk about the special effects. The CGI is cheesy and awful by today's standards, so it might be hard to believe looking at it now, but the Super Mario Bros. Movie was actually a landmark in computer-generated special effects. It was the first movie to use Autodesk Flame, which was in beta at the time, and would go on to become the industry-standard 3D compositing and finishing software. It was also the first film to be scanned to a digital intermediate for compositing digital effects, and it was scanned at 2K resolution. Even Jurassic Park, which came out the same year, only has about 4 minutes worth of CGI shots, and they were scanned and rendered at less than 1080p. I heard it was 1.5K, but I can't find an official source for that. In any case, that's why any shots that have CGI in them look blurry when you watch them on Blu-ray. They had to be upscaled for the HD release. So while the CGI effects in the Mario movie are laughable now, this movie actually did a lot to pave the way for modern special effects. Thanks to the advent of CGI, literally anything you can imagine is possible to put into a movie now. So now filmmakers can just run with whatever stupid ideas pop into their heads, and they can get armies of overworked and underpaid animators to turn movies into big dumb spectacles that appeal to brain-dead, popcorn-munching normies, and don't have to worry about things like story, character, or originality. So you can thank the Mario movie for Hollywood's current era of creative bankruptcy. Mario and Luigi emerge in a room with a big round glowing thing in the middle of the floor, and chase after the two goons as they carry Daisy away. They burst through a door and end up in what appears to be a crowded city street. They lose sight of Daisy and the goons, and realize they're in some kind of dystopian sci-fi city.
This is crazy. We went under the river, but this can't be Manhattan. Where is this place?
I don't know, I ain't been to Manhattan in a couple of weeks.
Now, this is where it gets confusing. When you think of other movies of its type, live-action adaptations of video games or cartoons, you might think of something like Masters of the Universe or Smurfs, where the cartoon characters come to the real world because it's cheaper to just film in real locations in California than it is to build a bunch of huge sets to represent the original fantasy world. Even the recent Sonic the Hedgehog movies did this. But Super Mario Bros. Is the opposite. It starts off in the real world, and the characters go to the fantasy world. So evidently, they had the money and the willingness to make the bulk of the movie take place in a fictional setting, which they would have had to build. So it just blows my mind that this is the world they came up with. Why not just make it set in the Mushroom Kingdom? Why get the art director from Blade Runner to build a futuristic dinosaur city that has nothing to do with Mario? What were they thinking? I'll tell you what they were thinking. They were thinking about drinking the bottles under the sink. Mario and Luigi spot Daisy being shoved into a taxicab and tell a nearby police officer to do something, but he just orders them to leave. They fall off a balcony and see two little dinosaurs eating some kind of fungus and run away, and then they start to realize how everyone looks f***ed up. They continue to look around and see a guy ride a bicycle off a ledge.
Where are we?
I don't know, maybe we got knocked unconscious.
Really, the guy just rides it off the ledge. It's not like anyone pushed him or he lost control or something, he just rides off. Real NPC energy. Mario and Luigi walk away, and then we see some big green guy with a small head. Then we cut to Koopa giving blunt exposition about the city to a woman who undoubtedly already knows about it.
65 million years. We've been exiled here after the meteorite struck, while mammals roam free in the other dimension.
This screenplay went through 7 drafts. Okay, so Koopa is mad that he and his people have been trapped in another dimension where they're running out of food and water, and they've been here ever since the meteor struck 65 million years ago. Remember the opening narration?
What if the dinosaurs weren't all destroyed? What if the impact of that meteorite created a parallel dimension where the dinosaurs continue to thrive and evolve into intelligent, vicious, aggressive beings?
So it turns out the dinosaurs weren't killed by the meteor, but instead got sent to another dimension where they all conveniently evolved to look exactly like humans, so the filmmakers wouldn't have to do makeup for all these extras.
When you get your rock.
When I get the princess. And I'll finally be able to merge our world with theirs and get rid of the mammals!
And now Koopa needs Daisy, who's a dinosaur princess but doesn't know it because she grew up in the human world, and the weird crystal she wears, in order to merge the dimensions so the dinosaur people can take over the Earth and take all its resources. That is the plot of the Mario movie. Okay, so the Mario franchise has little to do with dinosaurs, but Super Mario World in 1990, the most recent mainline game at the time, takes place on Dinosaur Island, not to be confused with Raptor Island. So I guess the people who made the movie played that one game for 5 minutes and just assumed the entire franchise was about dinosaurs, and then very loosely based their setting of Dino Hatton, that's what it's called, on this false premise. But then they decided to make Daisy the princess in this movie instead of Princess Toadstool. They turned Koopa into the bad guy from Waterworld, and the Mario brothers are no longer brothers. Like, I can't just make sense of the thought process here. Every creative decision in this movie is just so bizarre that it's hard to know where to start. I get tired just thinking about it, so I'm going to talk about Super Horneo brothers instead. Why is the one who looks like Mario named Squeegee, while the one who looks like Luigi is named Orneo? Why does King Pooper sound like he's doing an impression of Toad from the Super Mario Bros. Super Show?
Oh! You haven't beat me yet, Horneo brothers! Nobody beats King Pooper! Are you out of your mind?
What Mario character is Bon Dory the Bondage Queen based on? Of all the Mario-related things you could have put into a spoof, why isn't Birdo represented? Why isn't Ron Jeremy in prison? Why did the Goblin turn on the stove? Those two goons come in to tell Koopa they've captured Daisy, but he asks them about the rock.
Without that piece, the meteorite lays dormant. I'll not be able to merge the dimensions.
So it turns out the crystal is actually a fragment of the meteor. I guess putting it back will somehow cause the dimensions to recombine. Why no one has ever done this at any time over the past 65 million years if they've had the fragment up until Daisy disappeared 20 years ago is never explained. Nor is it explained why they need to merge the dimensions when there apparently exists a portal to the human world which they can just walk through at any time. Which you think they would do since the dinosaur world sucks so much.
Where is it?
The plumbers took it.
Plumbers. Plumber alert.
Koopa puts out a bounty for Mario and Luigi, and then we see Mario and Luigi asking people for help until they encounter an old lady.
You know, boys, it's very dangerous here in this neighborhood. You shouldn't wander around without a weapon. You got one?
No.
All right. Get him up, sucker!
The old lady steals the rock, but then a giant woman throws her into the back of a car, and the old lady zaps a guy without provocation and causes a multi-car pileup. And the big lady takes the rock for herself.
Come and get it, big boy.
The big lady bounces away with her rocket boots, and then some asshole with a guitar comes walking up and tells them to cheer up. Because, you know, telling someone to cheer up always makes them cheer up.
All because of the evil King Koopa.
You know the law, Toad!
Oh, so I guess that's supposed to be Toad. He's just a guy. Hey, you wanna know what Toad almost looked like? The cops arrest Toad for singing an anti-Koopa song, and then they notice Mario and Luigi's tool belts and realize they're the plumbers Koopa's looking for, so they get arrested too. We cut to Daisy being shoved into a room with all the other girls the two goons kidnapped, and one of them is Mario's girlfriend.
Daisy! You too! Daniela!
Oh, so that's her name. What character is she based on? They couldn't just name her Pauline after the girl from Donkey Kong? The cops take Mario, Luigi, and Toad to the police station, and the car apparently needs arresting gear to stop, like a fighter jet landing on an aircraft carrier. Then they get brought inside where another cop asks them their names.
Name? Mario. Last name?
Mario.
Okay, what's your name?
Luigi.
Luigi?
No, Luigi Mario.
Why is there a foot on the cop's shoulder?
Mike! Up these Marios around the side.
No, hold on. Why is that foot there? Why was that foot included in this scene? How is the movie benefiting from the presence of this foot? What is the narrative and/or thematic significance of this foot? Why is that foot there? So Mario gets his genitals sprayed, they get doused in Gatorade in order to defungus them, and they get chained up and the cops start aiming their laser sights at them, but they're just getting their pictures taken, and then they get put into a big dog kennel. Toad explains how the dimensions got split when the meteor struck, and theorizes that the fungus that's all over the city is actually their king, who's been de-evolved. But then the cops bring Mario and Luigi into a room to talk to Koopa, but Koopa lies about who he is.
Larry Lazard of Lazard.
He pretends to be their lawyer and asks them about the meteorite piece, but they don't know what he's talking about, so he grabs Luigi and starts digging his thumbs into his eyes. Mario tries to stop him and gets tased, and then the cop sprays sanitizer on Koopa's hands.
No one touches President Koopa!
Yeah, there's this weird running gag where Koopa is some kind of germaphobe. I don't know. He tells the cop to take Mario and Luigi to the Devo chamber. Then we cut to them walking into a big room where Toad is strapped into some kind of German sex contraption. Koopa tells the guy to de-evolve him, and the chair slides back and puts Toad's head in a thing where his face spazzes out. Then Koopa starts explaining how the de-evolution machine works.
You may think of evolution as an upward process. Things evolve from primeval slime, up to single-cell organisms, up to intelligent life.
Not really. It's not accurate to think of evolution as a progression, because no one organism is more evolved than another. Species just kind of change to suit their environment based on selective pressures, which promote the propagation of advantageous genes from one generation to the next, while detrimental genes die off naturally due to the individuals who have them not surviving long enough to reproduce. And that doesn't necessarily result in them getting smarter. In fact, most animals are dumb because having larger brains is actually a disadvantage for most ecological niches, since they demand a higher calorie intake for little benefit, until intelligence crosses a certain threshold where the investment becomes worth it for the survival and reproductive advantages. This is why most animals are only as smart as they need to be to survive long enough to reproduce. As far as evolution is concerned, reproduction is the only thing that matters. Speaking of reproduction, let's talk about Super Horneo Brothers some more. This is actually Super Horneo Brothers 2, the only one which survived thanks to SomethingAwful.com after Nintendo bought up the rights to stop the distribution. And since Nintendo claimed ownership of it, that means it's canon. But even though Super Horneo Brothers Part 1 is now lost media, the first 12 minutes of Part 2 are a recap of Part 1, so we still know what happened in it. Horneo and his brother Squeegee Horneo get sucked into a computer and f*** everyone. Anyway, Koopa explains that his de-evolution machine de-evolves people to a dumber prehistoric form, which makes them easier to control, and says he himself evolved from the Tyrannosaurus Rex, and this movie is following the logic that animals tend toward a humanoid form as they evolve, because humans are the peak of evolution or something. Then he draws attention to the newly de-evolved Toad.
Goomba.
Oh, so I guess that's supposed to be a Goomba.
Loyal, lethal, stupid.
Koopa sends Toad to join the other Goombas, who give him a harmonica to wear around his neck for no reason other than so we'll be able to tell him apart from the other Goombas later. Then Mario shoves Koopa into the chair, and Luigi turns on the de-evolution machine. I guess no one thought to handcuff them. And if you're wondering why there's suddenly green shit all over the floor in front of the machine, it's because there was a deleted scene in which Koopa de-evolves a guy into slime. Koopa gets his head stuck in the machine, but only for a second, and then we see his eye briefly turn into a monster eye.
I'll kill that plumber!
Mario and Luigi run and hide behind a pillar covered in fungus. A little bomb lowers down. Then the Goombas show up so Mario and Luigi run away before they can take it. And this bomb is the only thing in this movie that's even remotely accurate to the source material. Mario and Luigi grab onto this hanging track thing that's just in the police station for some reason, and zip line across the room while the Goombas shoot fireballs at them. And then they make their way into the garage and get into a police car, which has a plow on it, presumably for crowd control, I guess. Luigi is able to figure out how to turn on the car's alien computer because he plays video games.
I gotta think about this, Mario Rooney.
I can't believe you can do that.
Comes from sitting on my butt all day playing video games, that's why.
They turn on the car and speed off, and we see the car has this metal thing that sticks out on a pole to rub against some kind of electrified grid on the ceiling. Like that's how it gets its power, like a bumper car. A chase ensues and Luigi finds their mugshots on the computer with just their heads cropped over a blank background for some reason. They turn down a narrow alley, and we can briefly hear Funiculi Funicula playing on the soundtrack. You know, in case you forgot they're Italian. You know the guy who did the music in this movie is the same guy who did the music in Back to the Future and Predator? I bet he wishes he could go back in time and blow his own head off before he signed on to this movie. Mario drives the cruiser right into an oncoming car and they somehow end up on top of it for 20 seconds, and the cops catch up and shoot fireballs at them. Fortunately, the cruiser they stole is apparently immune to fireballs, and the police cars that are chasing them aren't. Mario and Luigi celebrate their vehicular homicide, and then they drive the car into an unfinished tunnel. The computer warns them they're leaving the power grid, so the brakes stop working, and they drive the car off a cliff, but the fungus catches them. The two goons rush back to Koopa and tell him Mario and Luigi escaped into the desert, so Koopa asks them why they aren't going after them.
That's exactly what I told him, sir. Between you and me, Spike hasn't got a thought in his brain, sir.
Between us, Iggy doesn't have a brain in his head.
Oh, so these are supposed to be Iggy and Spike. You know, if you're not gonna make the characters in your movie look like the characters from the source material, can you at least have the decency to have a character in the movie mention their names early on, so I don't have to wait until the halfway point to find out who they're supposed to be? Anyway, Koopa tells Iggy and Spike to f*** off, and then he tells this lady named Lena to bring in the princess.
Do you know what I love about mud? It's clean and it's dirty at the same time.
I'm not sure that's true. Lena goes into the room with all the kidnapped girls and calls Daisy Princess Daisy and tells her to follow her. Then we cut to the de-evolution room, where Spike is being put through the de-evolution machine, but this time it's set to evolve, so it makes his brain bigger.
Do you know what the square root of 26,481 is?
What are you talking about?
191.
Then they strap in Iggy.
Perhaps if I could just make you idiots smarter, you won't screw up this time.
So Koopa makes Iggy and Spike smarter, and by smarter, I mean they just use multisyllabic words now, because that's how dumb people think smart people talk.
Transmogrification.
More like a, transfiguration.
A simple metamorphosis.
It is erroneous to postulate that interspersing one's parlance with supererogatory sesquipedalian circumlocution will engender the illusion of sagacity. Then we cut to Daisy wearing a dress decorated with pop rocks, and sitting on the world's most uncomfortable chair. Lena comes in and tells her about how her mother smuggled her to the human world and died.
What about my father? Is he alive?
It depends on what you mean by living.
Someone thought that was a clever line. He's either alive or he isn't, you dumb bimbo. Answer the question. Then we see Mario and Luigi arguing as they trudge through the desert.
Pick a direction. Any direction you like.
How about down, into the ground, right next to my hopes and dreams? Then Koopa talks to the cop guy about the de-evolution gun they're gonna use to invade the human world, which is just a Super Nintendo Super Scope painted silver. Then Lena tells him Daisy is ready to see him. We cut back to Daisy, and a dinosaur comes up to her, and then Koopa comes in.
Yoshi is a pet of the royal family.
Yeah, that's Yoshi, f*** off. Koopa broods over the dinosaur world being a big, empty desert, and he does this tongue thing, and explains to Daisy that she's a dinosaur person.
And you know what they say about little girls, don't you? They say they never forget the first time they're kissed by a lizard.
Huh?
And you know what they say about little girls, don't you? They say they never forget the first time they're kissed by a lizard.
This screenplay went through 7 drafts. Koopa's face starts distorting, and he tells the Goombas to take Daisy away, and then he kicks Yoshi. So what was the point of all that? He didn't ask Daisy anything, he just kind of creeped on her, and then told her to f*** off. Iggy and Spike spot Mario and Luigi in the desert and try to drive to them in their Mad Max car, which they promptly drive off a cliff. That seems like a strange thing for a couple of smart guys to do, but maybe I'm just too stupid to comprehend this bold strategy. Mario and Luigi capture them and tie them up in such a way that they can still easily move their arms, and ask them about the rock Koopa's looking for. They explain it's part of the meteor that hit 65 million years ago, and that the portal between dimensions only opened up recently because someone on the human side blasted it open.
It's been sealed off for years until someone on your side blasted it open again.
Scabelli.
Okay, hold on. So the reason Koopa can't just send an army through the portal is because the portal was closed up until now. But we saw Daisy's mother bring Daisy to the church at the beginning of the movie. So I guess the portal was sealed when the tunnel caved in and crushed her, but it was open for 65 million years, all the way up until then? Why didn't Koopa just come over before? Oh wait, he did! He was there just before the cave-in that killed Daisy's mother. So why did he follow her across dimensions to get the rock he needs to merge the dimensions when he didn't need the rock to travel across dimensions? Why does he need to merge the dimensions when anyone can just walk over? Why was that foot there? Luigi says they'll give him the rock if they give them Daisy, but that fat lady from earlier took it. Iggy and Spike know what he's talking about, and she's a bouncer named Big Bertha who works at a place called the Boom Boom Bar. Back in Dino Hatton, Daisy tells Yoshi to stop chewing on his leash, and then the scene ends. Yeah, they spent all this time, money, and effort on this elaborate special effect, and the scene it's in is entirely pointless. Back in the desert, Mario, Luigi, Iggy, and Spike have a plan to steal a big truck from these guys called Snippets, so they could drive it back into the city, but Luigi realizes he lost all his tools. They assault the Snippets with plungers and wrenches, steal the truck, sneak past the guards, and drive back to town without incident. A lot of tension in that scene. The four of them then go to the Boom Boom Bar in borrowed clothes and turn over their tools to some woman. As they wander around the club, we see people dancing and having a good time, and it's at this point that I realize the fact that they're running out of food and water doesn't come across at all in the world building of this movie. At no point do we see anyone starving or begging for water, there's no mention of rationing food, there aren't any rolling blackouts, nothing. If no one said there was a shortage of resources, you would never make that assumption. We're just kind of expected to believe it because someone said so, and the plot needs that to be the case so the bad guy will have motivation. This screenplay went through 7 drafts. Anyway, the woman realizes they're on a wanted poster and calls the police. Then Mario and Luigi spot Big Bertha, still wearing the rock around her neck. Mario decides to try to seduce her.
No woman can resist the charm of a mouse.
Mario tries again, saying he admires the way her knuckles felt on his face. No, really.
The way your knuckles, Frank, as you smash them into my face?
Flattering the woman's toxic tendencies seems to work. A slow song starts playing, and as they dance together, Mario tries to steal back the rock. He eventually succeeds, but then the Goombas show up. Mario and Luigi try to keep them from taking the rock by tossing it back and forth to each other, but then Lena gets it. And then we see Iggy and Spike get arrested for no reason. Keep in mind, the Goombas have no way of knowing that Iggy and Spike are helping Mario and Luigi at this point. There was actually a deleted scene where Iggy and Spike sing a rap song about how Mario and Luigi convinced them to overthrow Koopa.
It's time to get rid of
You know who? A radical development is taking place.
Iggy
and Spike will set the pace. Koopa! The party poopa!
The Goombas showed up and arrested them for singing an anti-Koopa song, like when Toad got arrested earlier. I guess they decided to delete it because it was cringy, but they didn't have any alternative footage and I guess they couldn't do a reshoot, so Iggy and Spike just get arrested for no reason. Anyway, Big Bertha just kinda decides to help Mario and Luigi escape for some reason, so she blocks the door to the closet for them while they put on the rocket boots, like the ones she had earlier. She kisses Mario, then Mario and Luigi escape through the roof. As they run away, Luigi sees another bomb in the fungus and takes it this time. Then they jump into the back of a truck as the Goombas and police close in on them. And I guess the police can't just order the truck to stop, so they just kinda get away. And then they plan to break into Koopa's tower because they assume that's where Daisy is. You know, if I were to kidnap a princess, I would hide her somewhere where no one would think to look for her. Back in prison, we used to hide things in our asses. Now, you might think that a whole princess would be too big to fit inside a guy's ass, but you'd be surprised how much it stretches when you've been in prison for a while. We all did yoga in the yard every day, so we got pretty flexible. Inside Koopa's tower, Koopa walks into a room with a big slimy fungus thing dangling over a throne and starts taunting it. So if you haven't figured it out, it turns out Toad was right. This is the king. De-evolved into a giant slime mold that's spreading all over the city. Because dinosaur people evolve from slime mold, I guess. But apparently, he's still conscious and able to perceive the world around him, as evidenced by the fact that he reacts to Koopa entering the room. And he gave a bomb to Mario and Luigi. I guess Koopa knows he can hear him despite his lack of ears, otherwise why would he have taken the time to come down here to talk to him? Come to think of it, why is he keeping the king alive at all? Why not just kill him and remove all possible threats to his rule? Why turn him into an omniscient fungus that spreads all over the city? Why was that foot there? Mario and Luigi conveniently get dumped right outside the tower, and then we cut to Koopa ordering a pizza.
King Koopa here.
Oh, yes, sir.
I'd like the Koopa special.
Pterodactyl tail on that?
I couldn't help but notice he didn't ask for his pizza to be boneless. He also referred to himself as King Koopa. Whether he's called King Koopa or President Koopa seems to fluctuate based on whether or not the directors were paying attention. Mario and Luigi sneak into the building.
Look at this. It's a plumber's nightmare. These pipes haven't been serviced for years.
Must have been a non-union job.
This movie was a union job, and look how it turned out. They realize they're in the heating system, so they start turning valves to make the building cold. Why? Well, for the same reason that Foot was there, obviously. The alarm goes off, so Mario pulls something out of a locker, and then we finally get the reveal of Mario and Luigi in their not-so-iconic red and green coveralls, and they get in the elevator. Then some Goombas come onto the elevator, and then we cut to Lena telling Koopa that Iggy and Spike have betrayed him.
Fascist! Oppressor of the proletariat!
Koopa tells the Goombas to kill them. Then Lena tries to tell him something, but he refuses to listen and starts ranting about how he still doesn't have the stone. When he walks away, Lena reveals she has the stone, and decides she's gonna go merge the dimensions by herself. Why? I don't know. I just know that my stool is getting loose. Back on the elevator, Mario and Luigi get trapped behind a bunch of Goombas who somehow haven't noticed them, and realize there's elevator music playing. So Luigi grabs one of the Goombas and starts rocking it back and forth to entice the Goombas to dance. We cut to Toad Goomba bringing Daisy some raw meat.
For me? I'm a vegetarian. I don't eat anything with a face.
Ew. Then Lena comes in and blocks the door like she's planning to, make a Weinstein production with her. But then she just tries to stab her. Unfortunately, she's thwarted when Yoshi uses his tongue on her. Maybe this is a Weinstein production. Daisy runs out of the room, Lena stabs Yoshi, then chases after Daisy. On the elevator again, Mario and Luigi escape from the Goombas while they're distracted, and then the leader Goomba shows up and yells at them. Daisy runs down a corridor and bumps into Toad Goomba again, but she sees Iggy and Spike being dragged down the hall by two more Goombas who proceed to shoot fireballs at her. They miss and light Toad Goomba on fire, and Iggy and Spike use the distraction to escape. Daisy puts out the fire because she cares about this Goomba for some reason. Now keep in mind, Daisy has no idea this Goomba used to be Toad, nor does she even know who Toad is, nor does she know that the Goombas used to be people. There were never any scenes where this information was conveyed to her. Maybe it says something about her character that she's concerned about the well-being of her enemies, like she's just that kind and compassionate. She's so kind and compassionate, in fact, that she gave John Leguizamo a chance. But I guess we'll see if this characterization remains consistent. Anyway, Iggy and Spike lead Daisy to her father.
Your father, the fungus. Koopa's first victim of de-evolution.
At this moment, Daisy should have a million questions. Wait, what? Hold on. I've been stuck in 2 rooms the whole time I've been here, and I have no context for any of this. What's this about de-evolution? Koopa's been de-evolving people? Why? How? And aren't you the guys who kidnapped me? Why are you suddenly trying to help me now? Why should I trust you? How do you expect me to believe this blob is my father? Who even are you guys? Why was that foot there? But Iggy and Spike just kind of f*** off and leave her there alone while Crazy Lady is trying to kill her. And then we cut to Mario and Luigi finding a big ventilation shaft. Notice how they suddenly don't have the rocket boots anymore? The ones they used to escape from the nightclub and was still wearing when they got on the elevator? Yeah, they just aren't wearing them anymore. There's a shot that got cut where we see they left the boots behind on the elevator, but even that doesn't explain why they left them behind. And no, it's not because they were too loud, because we can clearly see them still wearing them when they're crawling between the Goombas, who are apparently deaf and have no peripheral vision. They just kind of took them off because the plot needed them to not have them. You know, when you're writing a story and you have to give your characters a device or superpower which can get them out of almost any situation, and then it becomes inconvenient to the story you're trying to tell, instead of making them just discard the new abilities for no reason, why don't you crawl back up inside your mother and leave this world? So since they don't have their magic boots anymore, Luigi, who has somehow managed to survive all the way to adulthood, decides the best course of action is to just jump over the pit, but he ends up somehow suspended in the air above it. Thinking he's flying, Luigi convinces Mario to jump, but then realizes too late that he got his belt caught.
Oh, no, wait, Mario, don't jump, no, it's not, no, fine, it's just a...
As Mario falls, the fungus spreads out and forms a trampoline so he doesn't die. Then Yoshi bursts in on Daisy talking to her father. I guess he got free somehow. And Daisy pulls a knife out of him, and then she finds some kind of computer. And to use the computer, she has to point this clunky, oversized laser pointer at the screen. We saw Koopa using a similar device to order pizza earlier. Like, they can't just use buttons, everything has to be weird and whimsical. The cars, the cameras, the phones, nothing in Dino Hatton can look like anything in the human world. Except, of course, for the characters who all just look like humans. Anyway, it turns out this computer controls the building's security cameras and PA system. Why the controls for the security cameras and PA system are in the same room as the king who's being kept prisoner, I don't know, but Daisy uses it to tell Mario and Luigi where she is. Luigi sees a mushroom and thinks it's trying to communicate, and then the cop guy tells Koopa the troops are in position to de-evolve the mammals.
The troops are in place, ready to de-evolve the mammals.
Place ready to what? Now? Who ordered their deployment?
It turns out Lena went behind Koopa's back, and he realizes she has the rock and orders her arrest. Mario and Luigi find Daisy. Daisy introduces them to her father, and Luigi realizes he's been helping them this whole time. Then Daisy tells Mario his girlfriend Daniela, yeah, remember her, that she's also been brought to the tower, because remember, Mario didn't see her get kidnapped, and Mario rushes to go find her. Luigi and Daisy try to follow him, but they run into Koopa and his Goombas who just happen to be walking by at that moment, and get captured. Then we see Lena get arrested, then Mario finds the girls, and by now, the building is starting to get freezing cold. Because remember, Mario and Luigi turned the heat off, and I guess even though it's not freezing cold outside, if the building isn't being actively heated, it just freezes over, because that's how physics works. Mario kicks over the Goomba who's guarding the girls, then tells the girls to grab a mattress while he unscrews the cover to the air vent. The cop guy brings the rock to Koopa. Koopa tells him to release Lena for no reason other than she needs to be present during the movie's climax. And then he tells his 50 or so Goombas to prepare to invade the human world.
End up the de-evolution guns! Prepare for destiny!
Where's my pizza?
The only reason this invasion might work is because the magic meteor will transport them to New York. I can tell you that wouldn't work in Texas, because they don't believe in evolution. The Goombas come bursting into the room where they're keeping the girls, but Mario and the girls have started sledding down the air duct, which I guess is just conveniently wide enough to ride a mattress through. The Goombas chase after them, so Mario sticks a wrench into some hole that's just there for some reason, and it causes the Goombas to flip over. I stuck a thing in a hole once, and the results were equally disastrous. Mario and the girls come flying out of the building into the street, where they crash into some more Goombas. It turns out Luigi and Daisy are there, but so is Koopa.
Too late, humans!
Sir, your pizza's here!
Not now.
While Koopa gives a villain monologue, Mario grabs one of those rocket boots from the smashed window store behind him and loads a cartridge into it. I guess they just sell those in stores, like anyone can just go and buy a pair. I don't know, they seem kind of dangerous. Koopa starts shooting fireballs at everyone, so Mario gives Luigi his tools so he and Daisy can get out of their handcuffs. Then Luigi gives Mario his belt. I'm not sure what he expects him to do with it.
Trust the fungus!
Trust the fungus.
Mario swings across on the fungus, climbs up the bucket thing and kicks Koopa, causing him to drop the rock, which gets caught by Lena, who falls onto the electrical thing. But she's fine. Mario takes off his shoelace to trick Koopa into thinking he has the rock, then Lena runs off with the rock, and Luigi and the girls run after her. Mario jumps down into the street and nearly gets hit by a car that has a skeleton stuck to it for some reason. Then Luigi and the girls find Lena trying to stick the rock back into the meteor. Mario gets Koopa to chase him onto some kind of catwalk, and reaches into the belt Luigi gave him and finds the bomb from earlier. I guess Luigi just figured Mario would find a use for it. Koopa just stands there while Mario winds it up and sends it toward Koopa, but then it falls through the floor, but continues to walk around. The girls go through the portal back to the human world, then Lena sticks the rock back into the meteor, and then this happens.
Yikes. Man, she sure makes an impression.
Hey, remember when Daisy inexplicably cared about the Goomba that got set on fire? Well, she doesn't seem too upset about Lena getting turned into a skeleton. I guess she isn't that compassionate. She just saved Toad Goomba because the plot needed her to. I save my piss in little jars that I keep in a cupboard. Nobody needs me to, I just do it. Lena's horrifying death makes Daisy realize why Koopa needed her. Only she can put the rock back into the meteor without whatever that was happening to her. Why though? Why is Daisy the only one who can do that? And how did Koopa know that? Is it because she's part of the royal family? How did he know that the royal family could do that? Did someone do it before? If so, why didn't anyone on Earth notice the dimensions merging then? And did they unmerge again after that? Why was that foot there? Well, I guess it doesn't matter because the dimensions start merging anyway. So really, Koopa didn't need Daisy because he could have just forced a prisoner to do it. But I guess we wouldn't have a movie then, and saying that is a good way to dismiss any criticism of the plot because there's no way they could have possibly written it so that something else happened. So Mario and Koopa start disintegrating as the dimensions merge, and Koopa realizes Mario doesn't have the rock.
We're merging!
That looks extremely painful. Speaking of pain, let's talk about Super Horneo Brothers some more. According to an interview with Ron Jeremy in 2015, it turns out that Buck Adams, who both directed it and played King Pooper in it, did not base it on the Super Mario Bros. Movie which came out just 3 weeks later. It's just a coincidence that King Pooper happens to look like King Koopa. Apparently, he based it on the Super Mario Bros. Super Show.
I want my feet licked.
So even though the dimensions are merging, I guess that only affects Mario and Koopa, so Daisy and Luigi start trying to get the rock out of Meteor. Mario and Koopa, along with a handful of Goombas, emerge in the human world, and Koopa tries to shoot Mario with the de-evolution gun, but Mario momentarily loses 50 pounds and jumps out of the way, so Koopa ends up shooting Scapelli instead. I like how Dennis Hopper doesn't act like he's shooting until just before the animation of the beam stops, and then he keeps going.
Monkey!
You know that humans didn't evolve from chimps, right? Humans and chimps just share a common ancestor, meaning both evolved from the same thing. No, of course you don't know that. You think dinosaurs evolved from fungus and turn into humans. So even though seeing a man turn into a chimp would be a horrifying sight, everyone just starts laughing. I guess the mere presence of a monkey is supposed to be funny. Did a 4-year-old write this?
And now, I'm gonna make a monkey out of you, plumber. Trust the fungus.
Mario uses a mushroom to block the de-evolution beam, which causes the mushroom to get really big for some reason. Then he throws it at Koopa. I didn't mention it earlier because it's not important, but Mario was always skeptical of the fungus throughout the whole movie.
Hey, the fungus just saved us.
What are you talking about? It was my driving that saved us.
Wait, Mario. I think it wants me to take it.
Stop fiddling with the fungus and let's get out of here.
It's trying to communicate.
Luigi, it's a mushroom. Come on.
But now he's grown and changed as a person because he's learned to trust the fungus. That's his character arc. He trusts fungus now. Daisy and Luigi manage to dislodge the rock, and then the dimensions unmerge, causing Koopa and Mario to return to Dino Hatton. We see the Bob-omb walking across the street. Toad Goomba gives some de-evolution guns to Daisy and Luigi. The Bob-omb walks up a wall. Koopa tells the Goombas to shoot Mario, but then Toad Goomba distracts them by playing the harmonica, so Koopa punches them. Big Bertha gives Luigi some rocket boots, which he uses to jump around, then he and Mario shoot Koopa with the de-evolution guns. Just then, the Reebok-branded Bob-omb stops just below Koopa's feet. Then Koopa pops out, having been fully de-evolved into a rubber Tyrannosaurus. Mario and Luigi shoot him some more, causing him to de-evolve some more. Mario stands on Luigi's feet, and they fly over to Daisy as the entire town celebrates Koopa's defeat. And then the king turns back into his human form. How? What, just because Koopa was defeated, he magically turns back to normal? Why didn't the Goombas turn back? And did the machine de-evolve his clothes too? So what was the point of having Koopa get stuck in the de-evolution machine if they were just gonna have Mario and Luigi shoot him with the de-evolution guns anyway? Aside from that one scene where his face distorts a little for a few seconds, it doesn't have any consequence. They should have had him become more and more dinosaur-like as the movie progressed. but I guess that would have just raised the question of why he didn't just use the machine to re-evolve himself. I don't know, it's just kind of stupid. Anyway, Mario, Luigi, and Daisy go back to the meteor and use the rock to reopen the portal. I guess because it closed at some point. I don't remember that. Daisy says she can't go back because she's a hideous dinosaur person and has to stay in the hideous dinosaur person world. So Mario and Luigi say goodbye. Oh, and I guess Yoshi's there. Mario and Luigi f*** off back to Brooklyn, then we cut to 3 weeks later. Mario, Luigi, and Daniela see the news talking about them.
I'd call them the Super Mario Brothers.
F*** off. But then Daisy comes bursting in, telling them they have to come back to Dino Hatton.
What's wrong?
You're never gonna believe this.
Mario and Luigi grab their tool belts in preparation for a sequel that never happened. The credits roll, and then we got a post-credits scene.
A video game based on your many adventures.
What would you call it?
Iggy's World.
Indomitable Spike.
The Super Koopa Cousins.
Okay. So that's the Super Mario Bros. Movie. What's left to say about it? Bob Hoskins said it was the worst thing he ever worked on, and both he and John Leguizamo were drinking the whole time they were making it. Mario creator Shigeru Miyamoto cringed during a screening, and he and Nintendo of America president Minoru Arakawa briefly discussed buying out Disney's distribution deal so they could bury it, but ultimately decided to just let it go and hope the world would forget about it. And it was forgotten, at least for a while. I remember seeing an advertisement for it exactly once in a Ren and Stimpy comic book, and then no one ever talked about it. And then I opened that book again years later and saw that ad, and wondered if that movie ever actually got made. But then the internet happened, and guys like the Nostalgia Critic talked about it, and it ended up becoming this sort of cult film. There was even a time when it was the #1 best-selling movie on Amazon, around the time the new animated movie from Illumination was announced. And to be honest, I actually kinda like it. I mean, ironically, like in the same way I like Suburban Sasquatch. Every creative decision is just so baffling. It's such a weird anomaly of a film that's fascinating. If you want to know more, SMBmovie.com actually released an unofficial director's cut called the Morton Jankel Cut, which reconstructed deleted scenes from work prints, and you can find it for free on archive.org. It has alternate takes and different ADR lines, and the intro is different. It has old stop-motion dinosaur footage recycled from old movies, which I assume was just a placeholder, and there's no opening narration. There's also a deleted scene where that stupid running gag with Koopa's Pizza gets paid off, and there's an orchestrated version of the Mario theme which ended up not being used in the final cut for some reason. In the final cut, they ended up replacing it with generic comedy score. Why? It's like they went out of their way to make this movie as not related to Mario as possible. Why even call it a Mario movie? Alright, I'm sick of talking about it. Bye. Thanks to Tone, Alex Collins, Acolyte, Brody James, Goldbunny, Cameron Delshark, Cortez, Scientist, Diesel Wheel, Duke Snuggles, Zamora Sanchez, Enrique Vidal, Franco Sorai, Coco, Goma Flame, Gothic, Strash, G, Pizzy, Hayden Independent, Hintington, Simon Stansbury, J Lady, Jimmy Jan, Joe Bird, John Cleveland, Josh Leiper, Camille Schwartz, Camille 1000, Let's Quebec, Levi Jogs, Lee, Lydia, Lilith Durante, Lipdick, Marco McBire, Nathaniel Zans, Double Team 33, Peanut Warlock, Paco, Punkto, Ricky Baruga, Robert Bishop, Rafa Coffer, Salto, Salty Bucket, Scott Debo, Seven Saw, Sir Badass, Miranda Nuglor, Thomas Brown, Tucker Luke, Tony Belmonte, Toxic Masculinity, Tuzunio, Twilight City Studios YouTube channel, Blue Star Super Mud, Wilker Thacey, and Zenith.